I love shopping at Quince for their clothing. Hello, cashmere. But I'm also hooked on their home collection. Everything feels so elevated from their bedding to the towels, and it's surprisingly affordable. I love transforming my bed for the seasons. And now that we're easing into fall, I just purchased the Euro Linen Sham Set. That's a set. You get two at $49.90. It's an incredible price for this European linen sham set. So many colors and patterns to choose from. Quince is everything you need to upgrade your home for the season, from organic bedding and towels and even handcrafted furniture and premium woven rugs. By partnering directly with ethical factories and top artisans, Quince cuts out the middleman to deliver premium quality at half the cost of other high-end brands. Quince's pieces are stylish and functional and perfect for making your space feel warm and inviting as the weather cools. Refresh your space for fall with elevated home essentials from Quince, like I have. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT.
Ready to prioritize yourself? Your skin is a great place to start. Dime Beauty, founded by a master esthetician, is more than just a skincare company. With 4 skin-conscious categories, skincare, beauty, body care, and fragrance, Dime offers simple, spa-worthy products that will help bring your glow back. Whether you're revitalizing your regimen with nourishing products or building one from scratch, Dime makes it easy. The Work System, our all-in-one best-selling routine, includes a cleanser of your choice, toner, serums, and moisturizers, taking the guesswork out of skincare for your healthiest, happiest skin yet. Dime's commitment to clean ingredients and sustainable packaging ensures every product is as gentle on your skin as it is on the planet. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews and a loyal community, the results speak for themselves. Revive your skin and give yourself the routine refresh you deserve by visiting dimebeautyco.com. That's dimebeautyco.com. Your best skin awaits.
Summertime is in full swing, and now it's your chance to catch up on DTT episodes from the archives. Anita and I are taking a little break to enjoy family, friends, and travel, and we hope you're doing the same, and that you'll take us with you on your trip to the beach, in the garden, or just chilling with a cool drink. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and we'll be back soon. And until then, remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hi, I'm Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today we're talking about small space living solutions. And I love this idea, Kelly. This came from a listener, and I think it's such a wonderful idea for us to talk about.
Yeah, I think she even mentioned something about RV or real tiny house. So we're going to delve into a lot of different tips and solutions for you today, whether you're in a quote unquote regular size house, but you just need to find some great storage. There's storage hidden everywhere, possibilities anyway. And certainly if you're in a really small space or traveling in some sort of vehicle where you really need to optimize the space.
I thought we might want to talk about, for a few minutes here at the beginning, why you might want to move into a small house, a tiny house, just something that's much smaller than you have now. Maybe even kind of a massive downsizing. And the idea is about simplifying your life so that you can spend time on your favorite things. So if you downsize into, for example, a tiny home, you're going to save money on your purchase price, your utilities, your property tax, maintenance cost. It's going to be faster to clean, easier to maintain. So there's a lot of pluses, and it's going to free up your time. You're not going to be spending all this time taking care of your house. It'll free up your time and finances to travel or focus on other things that you might want to focus on. So it's really about a lifestyle choice, even if you just go to a smaller home. But there are downsides, and one of the downsides is obviously you have a lot less space to work with. You can't really have overnight guests for the most part, and you'll probably have to get rid of some stuff. And how are you going to store all your stuff? So there's a lot to think through, and it's not right for everyone.
Sounded pretty good. The downsides didn't seem to sound that bad. I was just thinking, how am I going to fit 4 dogs? But they're all small, so maybe I can do it. But yeah, I think that this is something that a lot of people are considering. I found some Instagram accounts that are on point for today that I'll share at the end of the episode. And you might want to take a look. These people definitely made an extreme life choice, one in particular, and the other one is decorating a very small Upper West Side Manhattan apartment in incredible style. So stay tuned and listen for those. But yeah, let's dig in.
So we've talked a little bit about why you might want to downsize to a very small home. And if you're going to do that, I think you know what's coming. You know what we're going to say next. You better declutter. You better declutter a lot. You're going to have to get rid of a lot of stuff. Obviously, there are a lot of creative things you can do to store what you do keep, but there's going to have to be a lot of tough decisions made. And I'm not sure it's a right decision for us because we just have too much stuff. But yeah, I do spend time thinking about if I had to get rid of one of my baby sets of dishes, which ones would I which ones could I get rid of?
Well, yeah, that's really coming down to it. Yeah, that's live or die. How many sets of dishes? We know that you don't buy full sets, and that really was a big step for you anyway. But yeah, you're going to have to, I would say, beyond declutter, like purge, a serious purging. So if you're up for that, I mean, it could be very freeing to do that sort of thing. Or maybe you don't have a lot of stuff to start out with. Maybe you're more of a minimalist and this would be easier. So definitely purge was one of the first things I had on my list of things to discuss today. You're going to have to get really creative, and we're going to help you do that today. And you're going to just have to think of spaces differently rather than just say, oh, there's a flat wall. Well, you're like, how can I transform that flat wall into some usable space? I approached this episode focusing more on finding storage and how to create storage areas and types of furnishings to select that can give you more flexibility and storage. And I'm thinking Anita might have taken a little bit of different approach. So we're going to cover a lot of this today.
That's right. So I kind of covered not only how you might want to adjust the way you store things, but also how you might adjust your lifestyle to living in a smaller space. So the next thing I had to mention is to get rid of single-use appliances as much as possible and go with multi-use appliances. I have a Breville Blueser, for example. It's a juicer and a blender, so it does multifunction. Before that, I had a blender food processor, and it had 2 different attachments that went on the same base. So I think as much as you can combine, that's the way to go. I know I also have a microwave that's also a convection oven. So that's something else to think about. So if you can just think about these appliances, obviously a toaster, that's probably not going to be combined with something else, but maybe you don't want a toaster. Maybe you don't use it that much and you could just put your bread in the oven.
There you go. I'm going to kind of move around on my list a little bit. So I'll be pulling out things that are kind of dovetailing with what you're talking about in the lifestyle version. And I'll come up with hopefully have a storage solution for that particular area. So you started with these appliances. So we're kind of thinking kitchen area. In the kitchen, there's a lot of space that might not be being used to its full potential. And one of those spaces, particularly if you're in a really small home, their kitchen's going to be small and you're asking a lot of that space in general. Choose a sink where you can get a cutting board that goes right over the top. That's going to extend your surface area a lot. Think about the size of the sink compared to the run of your counter. It might be taking up at least a third, maybe even half. So I found a sink that comes with a cutting board. It's on a build.com site, so it's probably on other sites as well. And I will link that in the show notes. I think that can be very useful, even if you're not in a super small space, because when you're not running the water or doing the dishes, that is just sort of an empty space that could be used in a better way. And of course, you could do something custom that would go over an existing sink, but it's just an idea. It's something to think about. You want to be approaching your home with sort of an open mind. And as I mentioned before, you're looking at a flat wall. Well, you got to think about how that flat wall can work for you. So thinking about that flat wall, moving on from the sink, my pantry door in my kitchen, well, everybody thinks it's super cool. It is kind of cool. It's sort of a jib door, and a jib door is a door that you don't really think is a door. It's built into the wall, and you can press it, and you can think about it, and it's maybe a Agatha Christie or something like that. Someone would lean against a bookcase, and all of a sudden it would turn, and they'd be in some other space. Okay, so my pantry door, and this was created by Dean Price, the former owner of my home. It's not a flat door. It's a door to the basement, but he made it into a pantry. So it could have just been a flat door that went down the spiral staircase to the basement, and then you would have this flat door in the kitchen, not really doing anything for you. So he created an actual cabinet, and we call it the pantry, as the door. So if you can imagine it's maybe about, 12 to maybe 14 inches in depth. And it's two large doors, sort of, I wouldn't say all the way to the ceiling, but they're tall, and then they open. So that is also the door. You press on it, and the whole cabinet opens, and then you can go down the stairs to the basement. And then you push it closed, and it is on a very simple sort of a latch that just kind of goes into each other, and it holds it. And then you can open the pantry doors, and I've got all sorts of stuff in there. That's where we have our protein powder and our pasta, and it's a fabulous use of space.
How did I not know about this before? Have I just missed this? Have you been talking about it?
I don't know if I ever talked about it. It's on some of my videos, but it's when someone comes into the house, and for whatever reason, if they're in the kitchen and I need to go downstairs and I press it, everyone's like, oh. Yeah, it's a conversation piece too, but it's really useful.
What a great idea. I love that.
If your dog could talk, they'd beg for Ollie. The full-body tail wag, the excited little hops, the big goofy grin, that's the Ollie effect. Ollie delivers clean, fresh nutrition in 5 drool-worthy flavors, even for the pickiest eaters. Made in U.S. kitchens with highest quality human-grade ingredients, Ollie's food contains no fillers, no preservatives, just real food. With 5 protein-packed recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes or fresh turkey with blueberries, even the pickiest eaters can't resist. You might think, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/Wondery. Tell them all about your dog and use code WONDERY to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/Wondery and enter code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box.
What about multiple use furniture? Instead of using just single-use furniture, just like the appliances that we talked about, how about using furniture that has more than one use? So instead of having a side table somewhere, you would use a chest instead, so that you can get that storage underneath the countertop or the top of the piece of furniture. It's not just a table. You're going to need all those drawers underneath. That makes a lot of sense. There's also things you can do like Murphy beds where the bed folds up into the wall. You can also use a day bed that you can use as a sofa or a bed. The other idea would be to go with a sleeper sofa. And I'm sure you've also seen those tables, I think they have them at IKEA, that fold up into the wall where it's a desk or table, but then it folds up when it's not in use. And these are the sorts of things that you see in RVs. But if you had a small space, this is definitely something that you can use. In fact, one of the houses that we looked at that was pretty small actually had a Murphy bed, and I just love that idea. I love it.
Yeah, that's a very common thing. And if you ever lived in an apartment in New York City, lots of times they have Murphy beds because, it's a studio. And so it flops back into the wall and then comes down, but then you have living space under it. That's a great multi-purpose type of furniture. Nesting tables, which we love for all sorts of reasons, or at least I really, really love nesting tables. We talk about those often. And one of the really great options, if you do like antiques, but you could find this probably in a newer piece as well, is a drop leaf table.
Oh,
they're
I love
terrific.
those.
Right. So in line with the IKEA table that Anita mentioned, that I think has some sort of hinge on it and maybe a like a gate leg that comes down, and then you can make it go flat to the wall. This is an actual older piece of furniture that just has a drop leaf on. Sometimes it's both sides. Oftentimes, I think it's both sides. So then you can have it closer to the wall. It could be more like a small console or entry table, but then you could pop it up, and then all of a sudden you can have dinner at it.
Yeah, I love the idea. And what about vertical storage? So you're going to be going up instead of out because you don't probably have a lot of floor space. So you need something with a very small footprint. So now we're talking about something that either has a small footprint or no footprint. So a no footprint, we're talking about wall shelves or pegs. And we have some pegs near the doors where we hang coats, or in the summer, swimsuits. And that takes the place of having a closet. But also you can use a lot of bookcases and make them go all the way up to the ceiling. And then you can get a lot of storage there. So just depending on the space, how much depth you have available to you, that's certainly something that you can do as well.
Yeah, going vertical is key. That's for anyone. I don't care how big your house is. The odd thing is, and the common thing is, that people fill the space that they have with all this stuff, right? So even if you have a big house, you still might be challenged for storage. So look up. Vertical space is so often neglected, not used, not put to its best use at all. Even in your own closet, start there. Go in your clothes closet and say, why do the shelves stop here? Why is there not another shelf up here? You can get yourself a footstool and have it in there. I have a footstool from IKEA. It's a cute little stool, and it's not really like a step stool. It's an actual stool that you could sit on. I drag that thing up and down my small closet, and I'm going up. I'm getting a handbag and coming down. Maybe sweaters are up there that I don't use that much. It's good to have some clear bins or some obvious indication of what's up there, because if you are not, it's not part of what you're seeing all the time, you might not use it that often. So clearly mark it, or have it something that is actually a clear container so you can see what's in there. But I think that's a great way to get more storage. And that can be in any space. I say start in your own closet because it's pretty simple. And most people's closets are going to be unlike Anita's old closet. I'm sorry to bring it up.
I know. Thanks for reminding me of what I don't have anymore.
So if you can think about creative ways to utilize the space that already exists in your closet or elsewhere in your home, that is a wonderful way to grab more storage space.
You're right. A lot of closets aren't maximizing the use of the space. So maybe they just have one shelf, and then you have a lot of space above that shelf where you could put an additional shelf or stack bins. Another thing to adjust to if you've got a very small living space is you might get bored being in that space all the time. And I have a friend who moved from a traditional house into basically a barndominium, which is basically a barn, and they just have a very small apartment that they live in that really doesn't have windows. So, and it's kind of a temporary thing. They're trying to decide what they're going to do, because they're thinking about maybe living in their RV and some other ideas because they want to travel. So that's why they're kind of in an in-between situation. But the bottom line is they don't like staying in that little apartment all the time because there's no windows and it's a small space. So they have begun to live outside a lot, and they have a lot of covered areas to be outside. But she said they're just outside all the time. So if you have a small home, that's something to think about, is really make use of those outdoor spaces. And if you don't have a covered porch, think about maybe some umbrellas that you could put out there, or something so that you can have some shade, and get some nice outdoor furniture so that you'll actually want to sit out there. Because that's another problem, is maybe you have some inexpensive furniture outdoors that's really not very comfortable to sit in. So get something that's comfortable so that you will actually go out there and enjoy it.
outdoor living is great. I'm a little worried about the people with no windows, but we'll have to talk about that later. Okay.
I've tried. Yeah, we've been talking about that as well. So,
okay.
But I think she's thinking, well, they're going to move and then it's not worth the money. And I'm like, it's worth it. Trust me.
Yeah, that's a little worrisome. So hopefully wherever your little space or potential tiny home is, it has some nice windows so you're getting some natural light in there. Go into the studs. Everybody's got a stud around. You've got studs, no matter how tiny your house is. So when you're creating your small space, that's the best time to do it. But if you have an existing space, you can go into the studs. These are not holding up your house. There will be certain beams that you don't want to mess with. Of course, that's actually holding up the house no matter what size it is. But into the studs. So I mean in between those vertical planks that are right under usually the drywall, or if you have some other kind of surface in your home. So you can find those. You can open up an area of the drywall, and then you could drywall it again, but you're taking up some inches. You could just frame it out so the drywall that you've cut is not rough, right? You could do it with some simple molding and come around, and then you put little shelves in between. So you're doing in between your vertical studs, and then you're going with some horizontal shelves. We did this in our prior home, and at that time, the girls were still with sippy cups and all of that, and you had a lot of those, and mugs and things like that. So I created that type of space next to my refrigerator. The refrigerator was built in, so it had a partial wall coming down. But instead of just closing that up, I said, let's go into the studs and let's put a door on it. So it was very narrow shelves, maybe 5 inches. So you want to measure, what do you want to put in there if you're going to create this? You can't get a lot of depth, but you can just get the depth of the stud. And that's another reason why you don't want to line it with sheetrock, because you're eating up your inches. So that's a great way to find more storage. Now, I used it in a kitchen, but you could actually do this anywhere. You've got these vertical planks all over your house. It's just finding a spot that would make sense. And rather than just having it flat wall, you're creating a very shallow cabinet.
This is such a great idea. And I'm going to back up a little bit from that, because you were saying like sippy cups, that sort of thing. And how many water bottles, how many sippy cups do you have? Because probably too many. Although I had to fight my family almost literally hand-to-hand combat to get rid of all those extra bottles, but we didn't need them all. In fact, I finally threw out like a burger flipper the other day that just looked so ratty. And of course, the next day, it was like, where is the flipper? And I'm like, there's 3 others. Why do you need the one that was falling apart? That's the one I used. Well, not anymore.
Someone else is using that now. And
no, it's in the trash can. Hopefully it's been compacted. So nobody wants that thing. But anyway, back to what you were saying, though, about natural light. I feel like this is very important. And you just mentioned it, too, how that kind of disturbed you, that this place didn't really have any windows. Well, there was really just one in the door. So that is something that you need to think about. If the smaller your space is, the even more important it is to have this natural light, have windows. Because if you don't have enough windows, you don't have big enough windows, it is going to feel so claustrophobic. And if you're in a small place, it's even worse. So I would definitely make sure you've got lots of windows, and that natural light, it does something to your sense of well-being. The doctors have now, they're really saying, the research is showing that natural light is full wavelength light. It's got all the colors in it, and it's very important for you. And a lot of the indoor light now is almost all LED, which is all from the blue family, and that is not good for your body. So that the windows are very important for your health.
Couldn't agree more. Behind the door storage. I'm not a big fan of those sort of floppy looking shoe organizers, but sometimes you can get them in there in a pretty pattern, or they're just really useful and you're not really seeing them. So that's an option. They're soft. They're usually made of some sort of fabric. I guess they could be plastic too. And you could fold them up if you weren't using them, but they come with those hooks and they go over the door. Not the best looking thing, but hey, if you've got some extra shoes or you got a lot of shoes and you don't want to purge your shoes, that's an option. And they're also a great use of the space because usually behind the door, there's either nothing going on or maybe you have a hook. So that's something to think about. What I've done in my closet, and I did this a long time ago. I think this is one of my crafty DIY early blogging posts where I took a thread spool holder. You could see them at Joann's, probably Michael's, places like that. They're made of wood normally, and they just have rows of little dowels really sticking out where you would put the spool of thread, the hole in the thread, and you would stick it on there. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yes,
Anita.
I am.
Okay, so picture that. They usually come in a natural wood. I spray painted mine white, and I have used that for years as a jewelry holder. I'm not going to put any, my real good stuff right out there on display or, it's where it could be swinging in the door. But mostly, costume
well, apparently
jewelry.
Those lock spaces don't work either. So
yes, absolutely. So we know that now. But it's great for costume jewelry, and particularly if you have long necklaces, because they're hard to keep flat because somehow you walk away and they tangle themselves up with the other ones. I don't know what's going on in there.
I know.
But as soon as you walk out of the room, they're up to that. So this way, they're just hanging, and even like fun, cocktail rings, things like that. You can put all that stuff, bracelets, they all work on there. So they come in various sizes. That's a really good idea. And you have really just 2 nail holes that you have to make into your door. And it's not a very heavy item, so you don't have to use a gigantically long nail. So if you're okay with doing that, if you have wooden doors and you can do that, it's a great solution. They also have a stand because I guess people would use them in their sewing room and it might sit on a flat surface. So if you had space for that, which you might not have in a small area. So I think on the wall for today's topic is a better placement. But if you liked that idea, if you didn't want to hang it on a door or on a wall, then you could prop it up on a counter.
Great idea. And one of my favorite things to use to organize things are those bins that they sell at IKEA that are kind of open on the front, kind of lower on the front than they are on the sides. They look like they belong in a hardware store where you might have a bunch of screws and things and bolts in them. But I need the labels on those because I have a closet full of those bins that has a lot of shelves and then just a lot of little like picture hanging things. And so tape measures, that sort of thing. But even as I'm saying this, I realize how ridiculous this sounds because I think I have 5 tape measures. So how many tape measures do I really need? I probably should get rid of several.
You have a lot of repeat items. You cannot do tiny home. I just want to tell you that, as your friend, I'm going to say.
Well, I could if it was like a really big kitchen. If the whole thing was kind of like a kitchen, I'd be okay.
I could if I lived there alone and it was a really big kitchen. So speaking of furniture, built-in window seats or built-in sofa beds sort of things, you can have drawers underneath. Now, this is probably a custom situation or a semi-custom situation, but that's a great way to grab some space. So with a window seat, let's focus on that for a minute. I'm presuming you've got some windows, and I'm really hoping you've got some windows. Space underneath the window. Sometimes the window comes too far down for you to put a piece of furniture in front of it because you're blocking a lot of it. Sometimes it's just not an area where you would want necessarily to put a sofa or something like that. But lots of times you can tuck in a small window seat. Now, it could be a pre-made bench that has storage under it. That's an easy solution. You just slide it under there. Then you could sit there. You could grab your laptop. You could put a small little table in front of you, and now you've got either a workstation or a place to eat, and then maybe slide that little table off to the side when it's not in use that way. But underneath that seat, you can really optimize the storage. I just did this with a client. So she had those IKEA glass front cabinets / closets, and she had about 6 of those running next to each other, and got tired of being able to see through the glass and wanted something a little bit more custom to work with the various pieces of clothing and things that she had. So we had my carpenter create this beautiful run of very tall cabinetries, but then there was a window in an odd placement in the room, like off to the right. And so what are we going to do with that window? What's going to happen under there? And I said, well, how about a window seat? So we did an L-shaped window seat. And as we were thinking, I said, we're going to have some storage possibilities under here. Let's not do legs. Let's do cabinetry fronts. And she said, you know what? The thing that we struggle with the most is these rolling suitcases, the ones that you can put overhead in the plane. Her husband travels a lot for business, and they're stuffed in their closet because they don't really have room for them anywhere else. Could we design them to fit these? Well, yes, of course we can. So she specifically has this window seat storage for 4 rolling suitcases.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. And then, of course, if you really wanted to get industrious about your storage, you could put things inside the suitcases and put them in there. And if you lived in a tiny space, I would use my suitcase as a storage area.
No, that's a good point. We actually have 5 window seats upstairs that are built in. Well, right, but they're in the wall because they're dormer windows. So there's no way I can, it's the wall. So I can't really store underneath, but that's a great idea.
I think you mentioned shelves before. Put your shelves to work. Again, this is an idea of looking around for storage. And so don't get distracted with looking at all your pretty stuff and making vignettes in your head. You're just going to walk around your house and look for storage. So say you've got an existing shelf by your back door and there's some stuff on top of it. Maybe it's just decor, and that's perfectly all right with us. Make it pretty. But maybe under that shelf, you could get those little hooks that have the little screw attached to them. You get them at a hardware store. We get like a pack of 10 for whatever, $3 or something like that. Maybe you can screw those into the bottom of your wooden shelf, and that's where you can hang your keys. That's where the dog leash can hang. Now, these are all small things when you're talking about adding to the bottom of a shelf and whatnot. It's not going to miraculously free up 100 square feet in your home, but all these little things make a difference and gives you a place to put the items. You don't want to be stuffing all these things in just a air quotes, junk drawer. And then every time you want your keys to what have you, or you're looking for the dog leash, or you've got to go through this drawer and look for it. It'd be very organized and very streamlined, and using a space that was before just not pulling its weight.
Such a great idea.
So appliances, you're going to want to think about smaller profiles. So those gigantic washer and dryers, so many people have them. They're huge. You can't have that in a tiny home. You'd have to sleep inside the dryer. So you want to think about European lines, condenser dryers, which, can be a little bit more maintenance, but they take up a lot less space. So you need to understand how they work. They are different than the American models. So like Miele and Bosch and a couple of other companies produce those. They can be stacked. They also have a profile of 24 inches by 24 inches, much smaller. So they can go under a counter. They could stack nicely with a much smaller profile. So think about that not only for the washer and dryer, but for any of your appliances. Maybe you would consider doing a under counter refrigerator or a very slim refrigerator. So again, you have to think back to what Anita said in the beginning. It's going to be a lifestyle change if you're not currently living in a small space and you're trying to make that work for you like her friends are.
I've been looking at some tiny homes on YouTube, and I have seen some that did have a full-size refrigerator and a full-size washer dryer, but I would say that's more the exception than the rule. And it seemed like it was kind of an upsized tiny house, which seemed like a contradiction, but apparently there it was.
So not so tiny.
maybe it wasn't as tiny as the other tiny houses. I mean, there's a broad range of what they consider a tiny house. And I mean, some are so small, it's basically like living in a van, whereas others are much larger.
Yeah, and it's, meeting you where you are. If you're thinking about doing something like this. Didn't we do an episode on downsizing to a small home? I think we have something like that.
Well, we talked about tiny houses. I think it was more like, would you be willing to do this? Which the answer for both of us was no. We didn't think we were really game for that.
When you described all the reasons why in the beginning, I was like, that sounds really good, but not right now in my life. But I could see maybe doing that. I can see all the reasons why you'd want to, and it's probably very freeing.
Well, it's on my schedule 10 years from now to downsize, but this was supposed to be a downsize, and it was nothing but a downsize.
You're a downsize failure, and I'm a foster failure, and that's just what we are.
So
we've succeeded in many other ways.
It's on my schedule, but we'll see if it happens because I can't guarantee it's going to happen because this one, was an absolute failure. I think we end up with more space, but we're going to enjoy it for now and then assess later on. As I said, I don't think there's really any such thing in most cases as a forever home because different homes suit you at different times. And if you have a house that suits you from being first kind of a young adult till your entire life, then I'd say that's great, but that's unusual.
Totally different topic, but I do think that's going to become more of the norm now. Just throwing that out there.
Which is going to be more the norm? Staying in the same house?
People buy a house and that's their forever house.
Really? Okay. Well, this is a very interesting topic.
Okay, put that on the list for a bonus.
We won't go there, but I want to know why you think that. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay, make it a bonus episode. We'll chat about it. Okay. My last thing to discuss today is opt for sconces rather than lamps. So rather than table lamps or floor lamps, which are going to take up a lot of real estate.
Well, I love sconces, so I love that idea.
Do we have a review for today, or are we going right into the
We're going into DTT Defines because Anita forgot to do that.
Okay.
I've had a busy morning.
Okay. Well, thank you for all the lovely reviews, and we will get back to that next
That's
time.
Right. It will be back on track next week. So DTT defines bonheur de jour. In French, that means daytime delight.
And I don't think we can talk about that.
I knew you were going there.
Is that like a nooner? What is that?
Okay. You have such a dirty mind, Kelly. I don't even know what to say about that. This is a type of ladies' writing desk.
I would not have guessed that. Okay.
It was introduced in Paris around 1760 and quickly became very fashionable. So the bonheur de jour it's a very delicate and graceful desk with a decorated back, and they decorated the back in case it wasn't facing a wall because often it was facing, the entrance to the room. Yeah. Has a raised back and it often forms a nest of drawers and open shelves. I know you've seen these. There's a lot of reproductions out there, but they're really beautiful. The early examples had slender cabriole legs, but after 1776, they tended to have straight tapered legs. But they're really these very delicate, like I said, ladies' writing desk, and it has kind of the built-in shelves at the back of the desk, kind of in a vertical use up. So does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, I can picture that. I, of course, did not know that name, but that's great.
Okay, so now we know.
Beautiful. Okay, so my crush for today is, I think, absolutely hilarious. And it was brought to my attention by one of our longtime listeners who loves the show, mind you. This spectacular listener is known as Laurel Brook Floral on Instagram. I'm guessing her name is Laurel, but you know what? We're just friends, and I don't even know if that's her name. But let me know, Laurel. You can DM me again. And anytime you DM me, you crack me up because you're sending me Colleen Landry comedy. She talks about who is obviously her husband, life partner, as her inferior designer.
Oh Oh, I've heard her. Is she the one that talks about like the socks that were laid out, but they
don't give it away, lady. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit of Colleen Landry today. I'm hoping that this will record nicely. Of course, check with Colleen to make sure it's okay. But you should all follow her if you're on Instagram because she cracks me up. After Laurel Brook Floral, who does beautiful florals for people in New Jersey and Pennsylvania if you're in the need, sent this to me. I then sent it out to like 50 close friends because
it's very funny. She's very funny.
Interior designer put all the elements of design together like he's done for me today. He had some toast and he's left behind some beautiful crumbs that add texture to the space. I really like the dark ones and I wish he had more of those because they really pop off the white counter. I also really like how he oriented the toaster. I usually tuck it in here against the wall, but he's gone ahead and left it at an angle to create a full point, which I'm always talking about.
Boy.
I love it. And the sense of fun that is often missing from homes I crave. And he has brought that with this installment. Look how he's left this knife just precariously perched over the sink. I think he's testing the laws of gravity, and gravity didn't win because if it did, it would have gone into the sink where I would wash it. But if that were the case, where would the fun be?
Oh my God, could you hear all of that? It's so funny. Oh my
I
gosh.
did. She is hilarious. Oh my goodness.
So cute. Her interior designer. And she goes on and on, all these different things in her home, but definitely fun. And thank you, Laurel Brook Floral. Yeah, you made my day. I love getting a laugh. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. What's your crush, Anita?
Well, my crush is a new set of, okay, I know I'm going to be...
Even have that crush today when we're telling people you might want to try a tiny home.
You can't have this in a tiny home. So forget it. But they're grapefruit spoons.
They're grapefruit plates?
Grapefruit spoons, not plates.
Oh, spoons. Maybe you could have one in your tiny home.
Yeah, so I got some new ones. Well, the ones we had weren't very nice.
You got new ones? How many sets of...
But these are much nicer. I mean, and they're not expensive. They're like $5 a spoon, but they're just feel so much better in your hand. And we eat a lot of grapefruit in the winter, and it's got the serrated edges. It really is so much easier to eat the grapefruit. So if you love grapefruit, you're going to need these. If you don't eat grapefruit, you don't need them. And if you're in a small home, forget about it.
Well, there's a storage tip. If you don't eat grapefruit, just stop eating grapefruit and you don't need these. And that'll free up so much room.
That's exactly right.
My dad went on a grapefruit diet. And so there was so much grapefruit in our house. And we had those at that time. I don't know how many my mom had. Maybe she just had the one. But man, he lost a tremendous amount of weight. But I don't think that's a good way to do it. But there was a lot of sawing the grapefruit out of the pith at my house for, I don't know, it seemed like forever. Anyway, I don't recommend any of that. I did mention in the beginning that I had 2 IG accounts that I wanted to share, aside from Colleen Landry, hilarious woman. These are pertaining to our topic today. So one is Han Lives on Wheels. It'll be in the show notes. Don't worry about it. She's from Belgium. I can't pronounce her whole name. That's her handle on Instagram. Han Lives on Wheels. She's living in a very tiny house in Belgium, I believe, out in the woods. It looks fabulous. She's a darling 26-year-old. She's got 171,000 followers. A lot of people are like interested in what she's doing. The other one is absolutely gorgeous. My City Apartment. It's a British woman, Carly. It was on the Upper West Side. She has recently moved. I don't know if she moved to a bigger apartment. We're still just hanging on the edge there to figure out where she's moving to. But she's got a lot of content on there about her city apartment. And I think you would love it, Anita. She's got a little French flair going on. And what she can do in that tiny little apartment was amazing. And she's got over 400K followers. So a lot of people are loving what she's doing. You can check out both those accounts as well as Colleen Landry. It'll all be linked in the show notes.
Okay, well, while you were doing that, I found a review to share. How about that?
Wow. Okay, great.
Okay, so this is our lovely friend, Maria Elena.
Oh, yes.
We hear from her and we just love her. She's such a delightful person. And
I think
she
Maria Elena has been with us since day one.
That's right. Favorite of all my podcasts, she says. I've been listening to Kelly and Anita since the beginning. I truly look forward to Wednesdays to listen to their newest episode, where I always find myself nodding along with what they're saying or even responding out loud to them, which we love. And I can almost hear it. Yeah. During COVID, they even had a little decorating club online, which I still miss. Oh. From their great tips to the virtual kinship you feel with these two women, you will not be disappointed. So tune in. A forever fan, Maria Elena. Thank you so much.
Oh, Maria Elena, we love you. And she is a great designer.
Oh, yes.
I mean, her home is lovely. Oftentimes she'll send us pictures of stuff that she's doing, and we love seeing that. So thanks so much for that review and for your loyalty to us and the show and your friendship. So much fun today.
Definitely.
And lots of tips. So tiny home, big tips, I think, is what happened today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home, no matter what size it is. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.